The Bison prep for a 6'8" quarterback. You'll hear from Tim Polasek on how they're prepping to do that. Plus, one of the area's best baseball players is heading west to the Big Ten. Hot Mike starts now.
Hot Mike with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mike.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mike. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Good Wednesday morning. Welcome to the Did You Believe That Happened edition of Hot Mike on WDAY Extra. KSFL TV, good morning, everybody, in Sioux Falls, KNBN in western South Dakota, and Inforum.com. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Hump day, middle part of the week. Steamrolling towards the weekend. Apparently, summer weather heading back after we had a taste of fall last week. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Dom Izzo, host of said program on a September the 10th, 2025. Pack show coming up for you here today. It's also Wednesday, as I mentioned. Bison Media Zone is back later today. Colpack will be here to chat us, to get us ready for NDSU and Southeast Missouri State. We'll have more on that coming up. A couple snippets from Tim Polisek's press conference from yesterday here in a moment. A lot going on as we get ready for the game of the weekend in Missoula. We're going to chat about that coming up as well with North Dakota and Montana. Plus, if you missed it yesterday, which we aired the 4 volleyball games that were going on out in West Fargo, that was dynamite. And we'll recap that with Ryan Kill coming up from the Landon's Light Foundation. The first invitational is in the books. 8 teams played yesterday. It certainly seemed like it was a big deal out there just from watching on TV yesterday and I was able to check in on all 4 matches throughout the day, and it seems like they are primed for bigger and better going forward. We'll visit with Ryan about what his impressions were. He was running around, I know, for the first 3 matches. Obviously, his daughter plays for Cheyenne in the last one, so we'll get the full update on that coming up later on in the show. Excited to hear some feedback out of that later on in our program today. The Twins played last night, evidently. Lost by 1 million. Again, it's one of those games that it's going to happen here over the next 2.5 weeks before the baseball season is done to wrap up the year. Redhawks fell yesterday to Sioux Falls, so their best of 5 is at a game apiece. That series going back to Sioux Falls for Game 3 tomorrow. Minnesota Lynx are playing the finale of their regular season. The WNBA playoffs begin a week from now. The Lynx have 1 game remaining in the season. Last night, when the schedule makers came out with it, figured this would be a top matchup because they're playing the Indiana Fever. Figured this is going to be the Lynx, last year's runners-up, against Caitlin Clark in Indiana. Figure they're going to be in the mix to maybe win the whole thing. And, of course, as it's played out, Clark is done for the year with injury. Indiana is fighting for a playoff spot. Last night, Nafisa Collier didn't even play for Minnesota, and they would miss her because Kelsey Mitchell and Indiana were ready to go coast to coast there. Ariel Powers knocks down a 3. Then Mitchell drives to the basket and scores. Indiana was up by 14 after 1. Clark loving it. Lynx had their worst field goal percentage in the first quarter all season long. Breonna Taylor finds Mitchell for a 3. Lexi Hull, who has had her moments with Minnesota, that's another 3 from Mitchell. 18 points, 7 of 10 from 3. Indiana never trailed in the game. They blitzed the Lynx, 83-72 the final. Minnesota's now lost 2 of its last 3. Not necessarily playing its best basketball going into the postseason. Just 5-5 in their last 10. Again, the record, they're the number one seed. That's not up for debate. But they lose by 11. You don't want to be playing poorly, I guess, heading into the postseason as they lose by 11 last night in a game that they were. And meanwhile, Vegas is unstoppable right now. Las Vegas, who prior to last year is the two-time back-to-back champs, winning it in 22 and 23, they've won 15 in a row. They went from a team that was 500 at 14-14. They are now 29-14. My math's not great, but they have now closed it to just a 4-game deficit on the link. If the season had another week or two, they may pass Minnesota because they haven't lost in a month and a half. They and Atlanta are both tied for second. And how the playoff works now in the WNBA, it's 1 versus 8, 2-7, 3-6, 4-5 for the opening round. Right now, it's a matchup between Indiana, Golden State, and Seattle are all trying to get out of that 8 spot because that's who the Lynx would open with to start next week. So, got to start playing some better ball here because they've just been scuffling right now. And Vegas, I mean, if you have Asia Wilson on your team, you're going to be awfully good. And Vegas has found that here. They traded Kelsey Plum in the offseason. They still have Jewel Lloyd on their team. Chelsea Gray's really good. Those are all Olympians I'm talking about. If you get a potential, it's between New York, I think, because the Liberty are going to get it with Breanna Stewart. Between the Liberty, the Aces, and the Lynx. You get any combination of that for the WNBA Finals, which, remember, is now best of 7. You're going to have a dynamite championship. But the postseason begins next week there in the WNBA. Let's transition to some Bison football. Yesterday, Tim Polisic had his weekly press conference. Apologies there. We normally air that live. We had some technical issues there. So if you missed it, you can watch the whole thing available now at Inforum.com and on WDAY+. Couple snippets out of this. You're going to hear Tim chat about Jax Leatherwood, which is the SEMO quarterback, which we touched on briefly on Monday's show. We'll have more on that coming up on the BMZ later today. And also about the home opener and everything that's surrounding it. Out of this, we had some injury updates, which we'll get to as well. But here's Tim talking about SEMO's quarterback they're going to have to try and stop come up on Saturday.
Getting them to the ground. I mean, 6'8", 253. The target zone's big, but I think we got to get there. We got to hit. We got to wrap up. We probably got to finish with our feet and our knees and our buttocks coming with us and behind us. We can't lunge and grab. We're probably not going to, heel click them out of there. And then the other thing is just, visually he's going to have a good look at what we're doing, right? It's a big, tall guy. It's specifically with him, not his size, but it's his arm strength. He can throw the ball to the field, and then he can deliver on a little bit different platforms with the screen game. I've been impressed with this guy. He's not bad. When he gets time in there and when they're connected with the RPO game and he's delivering it on time, he's pretty good. 248 yards per game right now they're getting. So, yeah, he's big, man. We got to get there and we got to finish.
Describe being back home after playing 2 on the road, or just the anticipation of finally playing at the Fargo Dome?
Yeah, 2 things. It's exciting. It's exciting to have family coming to the game. It's exciting to know you're going to be with great supporters after the game, hopefully celebrating a win. Those kind of things come to mind. But it's also one of the reasons I do like being on the road is that there's actually less distractions. Okay, like I've already handled a couple things this week that I typically wouldn't have to do, right? The players are no different. Who's getting the tickets? When are they getting tickets? Who else has got tickets so that I can get more tickets? We got this whiteout thing that's going on that's really exciting. We got a new uniform going on that's exciting. They're going to raise a banner that this team has nothing to do with. And so really, I'm fired up to see if we'll handle eliminating distractions again this week. And we put that out there yesterday. We talked about practice with great intent. All right, the details matter. Fundamentals and technique is what we're all about. And then home game. Can you eliminate the distractions? Last week, energy was required on the road to win. This week, it'll be an intentional focus on the game.
Now, every coach always says there's just more distractions at home and all that. To me, I think, honestly, for a more mature group, this isn't a real big deal. Now, for NDSU, this is a relatively younger team. I think the opportunity to get their first game at home after having to go on the road for 2 weeks, they're going to be excited about that. You're going to roll your eyes at me to the cows come home on the uniform stuff, but there is definite, just visiting with some of the players yesterday, there is a definite buzz about that, even for the seniors in this group, that they are excited for a chance to do something that hasn't been done in 60-some-odd years for North Dakota State football, wearing all-white jerseys. Now, that being said, there are some injury concerns. They got some better news on Chris Harris that they initially anticipated. When I visited with Polisic last Friday when we got to Nashville, the thought was Harris is probably done for the year. That is not the case. That sounds like he'll be able to come back. We'll chat more on that on the BMZ coming up here in our next hour. They have some other dings up here. Jackson Williams has a toe injury. So they're dealing with that. So that's 2 wide receivers already. With Harris out, you have to imagine you're going to see more of Logan Conklin, probably more of Isaiah St. Romain, the 2 North Dakotans who had a great debut 2 weeks ago against the Citadel. Austin Altapeter is battling an injury as well. Calf strain there. We'll see if his progression there, the linebacker spot, where the Bison have already flashed some depth at that position. Ray James has played a bit. Altapeter's got out there. Oliver Luck from Fargo Davies has got out there and played. So that's good to see. Jalen Duffy potentially may miss the game, also battling a toe injury. So you've got some guys banged up here and potential to some other players to get out there and play. Now, frankly, the secondary, and this is something we talked about on Monday's Bison video blog, that they haven't been tested yet. And I asked Polisic about this yesterday, that they have basically no action in the first 2 games. If you look at the game stats and leading tacklers, it's the linebackers, because the secondary has Darius Givens, so we said his name. Polisic joked yesterday to the press conference with him, like, did you even play in the game? Ryan Jones, Duffy, Anthony Shadime Alfaro, Jaquise Alexander, Jalen Crumby. These are all guys that were expected to, hey, they're going to be big difference makers, a year of experience. We haven't heard of their name because their quarterbacks, the first 2 quarterbacks the Bison have played, have been awful. Just say it. Now, this guy they're playing this weekend, I don't know how good he is. I know how big he is. He's the reigning Ohio Valley Big South Offensive Player of the Week. Had a big game against North Alabama last week. SEMO has thrived in bringing in transfer quarterbacks. Their last guy, Paxton DeLaurent, was a transfer. He was a 3-year starter for SEMO. Helped them win the Ohio Valley in 22 and 24. Big guy as well. Not as big as this guy, but he could up there and sling it. And I don't think you can underestimate seeing over the line of scrimmage, because he can do that. Seeing over the offensive lineman to be able to make a throw down the field. Now, can he move? That is the counterpoint to this. Can he get out of the pocket and make guys move? That's where we're going to have to find out. And a challenge for the Bison defensive line. I was visiting with Zach Vanderpool yesterday, Bison redshirt freshman defensive tackle who got a forced fumble in the game on Saturday in Nashville. We got to get him to the ground, which is easier said than done for basically trying to tackle a tank is what I've described it as. And that's what the challenge that's upcoming for the Bison on Saturday. Much more on that coming up at 10:30 with our Bison Media Zone show today. We got a packed show coming up for you here today on this Wednesday. Our guest lineup is brought to you by Northwestern Mutual. Drew Trafton will be along in a few minutes. His beloved Grizz have the game of the week in FCS football. Montana and UND. Payback for the Grizz. We'll see after UND rallied to score 20 unanswered in the second half to beat Montana last year in Grand Forks. That's coming up in just a few minutes. Ryan Kilwell, again, will join us from the Landon's Light Foundation, who organized everything out in West Fargo yesterday at the Lights, to get his feedback on the inaugural event. And plans, I'm assuming, for year 2 are underway today. We'll chat with Ryan coming up at 9:35. And at 10 o'clock, we'll welcome on West Fargo Horace baseball head coach Quinn Irey to the show. If you missed it late last night, guy we had on the program about a month ago, Kason Borkhardt announced his commitment to play baseball at Oregon. last I checked, they're okay in baseball in the Big Ten. We'll visit with Quinn about that. Kaysen had played, as he told us in early August when he was on the show, that the commitments or the offers were coming. He was going to take his time. Well, he's made his decision, and he's going to play at Oregon. So we'll talk with Quinn about that coming up at 10 o'clock. That and a heck of a lot more here on a busy Wednesday. We're glad you're joining us. We're just getting started. Hot Mike back after this on WDAY Extra, KSFL, KMBN, and Inforum.com.
The biggest Seahawks, Sounders, and Mariners fan in the FM area. It's time for Views with Drew.
All right, Drew Trafton time here at 9:20. Ooh, we're a little early today. That's what's been coming about this. Tweet here, the Seahawks are winning on Sunday. Mark it down in ink. Was this a response to my dad's pick on Friday?
It was.
Yes.
Two comments. Okay, first, I didn't say which Sunday. Second,
I've used that many a time as well. Yes.
As the weather is today here in Fargo, my judgment may have been clouded a little bit. So here's the thing: when you're playing the San Francisco 49ers, I think like the worst week to play that team is week 1 because they're all healthy.
Yeah.
At that point, or
not anymore. You're right.
Not anymore.
Kittle got dinged up in the game.
I mean, if we had played them a week later, like Brock Purdy might be out, Juwan Jennings might be out, George Kittle might be out, Christian McCaffrey's still like iffy. It's like that. I was confident though heading into that game, and I wasn't super disappointed even though they lost.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a couple boneheaded plays at the end, and that's what cost them the game. But they were right there, and they showed signs on defense. I thought their defense was incredible for 99% of that game, and then on offense, Gray Zabel played really well. He played great. The line did really well.
Yeah.
Darnold was sacked
pancaking
once.
a couple guys.
He
so,
did.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
If Darnold has that kind of protection, he's going to be good.
We're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think one glaring weakness, Cooper Kupp was like not present. It's like he was about as effective as I was, from the couch.
Is it done?
It might be.
I was thinking that before the year.
Yeah.
I'm not sure on him.
He did have one route. I was looking at some all-22.
9 years in the league now? Because his last year at Eastern was 16.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.
All right,
and Darnold, if he would have gone to Kupp earlier in his progression, they probably would have had a touchdown. And so it's like, okay, so there's something there, and it's like maybe there's hope there for sure. And I'm not giving up on them. Like that's like week 1 football is so sloppy in the NFL now.
Yeah, week 1 man is
it's because of the preseason. It's like it's different. And it's like you're not.
It's a good way to describe the Vikes game Monday night. It was gross until the fourth quarter.
Any team that has consistency heading in from one season to the next, like has a huge advantage in week 1.
Yep.
And I don't think it's going to get better. I think when they go to 18 games, it's just going to get worse. In some respects, and so it's just going to be the first couple of weeks. Like just don't overreact. And that's a good. That's a good message overall. Just don't overreact.
So now you've got the Steelers on the road to the Seahawks on Saturday or on Sunday.
The Seahawks are winning that game on Sunday. Mark it down in ink.
Well, yeah, people asked me about the Jets game on Sunday.
That was a fun game.
And I was going to tell you right now, there was no way that Rodgers wasn't going to play well. I could have told you that once I saw the schedule. I said, well, I guarantee Rodgers is going to be great in that game. Of course he is.
Fields looked like a Pro Bowler in that game for sure.
But I mean, I could have told you the Jets were going to lose that game. Rodgers was not going to lose. Just the way it was going to work.
Okay, but Breece Hall looked great.
I was pleasantly surprised, honestly, for 3 quarters of the game. Fourth quarter, I didn't care for how they played. I didn't like defensively. They broke down an offensive line, which they lost their best offensive lineman a week before the season began. And honestly, they played okay.
Yeah. I mean, Steelers defense.
I said 7 wins. If the Jets get 7, I'll be thrilled on that. Anything above it is gravy after that, which is terrible that I'm shooting for a losing record, but that's where we're at with the football team.
It's not overreacting. It's not one or the other. It's good.
Let's overreact about the game Saturday. The best game in the FCS slate is in Missoula to Washington Grizzly on Saturday with UND and Montana. UND has been the surprise story, I think, of the FCS and how they have played. I thought UND would be better. I thought they would be better coached, which they have been. The Grizz was 21-17 at halftime?
Yes, it was all
not great because they're playing a
17
Division
points.
II team on Saturday.
And not even like a top 10 ranked D2 school. It was super concerning. I was overreacting to that game. The first couple quarters, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be a bad season," and they buckled down in that second half, and they played Grizz football finally. And,
By the way, wearing all white at home?
Yeah. So get this: that game was a blackout in the stands. They did a blackout for the game, and then of course they decided to wear all white, which is like flabbergasting. Like everybody in the media that was covering that game was like, "I don't know what's going on." They're wearing white.
By the way, off of this, there's been a more uniform drama because that's the deal this week because the Bison are wearing white.
Right.
USD apparently wanted to do this. Our friend Jay Elson tweeted this out that Northern Colorado has denied the Coyotes' request to wear white uniforms. It's not exactly a Northwestern Tulane situation for those that followed that. Tulane asked to do it. Northwestern said no, and then Tulane went and kicked the crap out of Northwestern. But the whiteout in Vermilion will now feature red jerseys.
Yeah.
If you're Northern Colorado, what are you doing? Northern Colorado's been good in football in 30 years.
I think they might be drinking the Kool-Aid after their last game.
Right.
Which
great. They played right. They almost beat Colorado State.
Yeah.
But UNC, you know this as being a Big Sky observer, has been bad in football for 20 years. Easy. Since they made the move to Division I, they've been horrible.
They've never been relevant in that Big Sky ever.
I mean, what are you doing?
Football. Yeah. I don't know.
Just come on.
You're poking the bear a little bit there, and they'll probably. Well, we'll see.
Anyway,
we'll see what happens.
So UND comes in here. They played, I thought, awfully well against Kansas State, and they did what they needed to do against Portland. I mean,
you beat them
actually
by 30.
look if Portland State and Northern Colorado play this year. Highlight matchup in the Big Sky.
Toilet bowl.
But the last time, obviously, they played was the game in Grand Forks last year where Montana had the game seemingly won at halftime, and then UND took it over. Washington Grizzly is hard for everybody. Everybody. If UND goes and somehow wins that game, then we've got to all sit up and pay attention after that.
Yeah, this is a prove it game, I think, for UND, and the Grizzlies are vulnerable right now. They are not the Grizzlies of even the past few years. I don't think. I don't want to don't overreact, but the journalist in me, I've got say what you see, and the Grizzlies weren't great. They weren't great. They weren't disciplined on defense. Their quarterback play, was 14 for 24, threw 2 picks with 2 touchdowns. One of the picks wasn't his fault, but it was that's not great. Michael Worthman, he was a transfer from Eastern Washington, an All-American, all-purpose player. Incredible. That guy player. Is so fun to watch. And he is he's kind of replacing that Junior Bergen hole that the Grizzlies had.
He was a returner and a backup quarterback for Eastern Washington because we saw him at US Bank Stadium a couple years ago.
Yeah, and he's going to be a factor in that game, I think. But, I mean, the thing is they don't have a lot of identifiable targets that UND has to really worry about. And so if they can focus in on him, they can stop Eli Gilman, who had a career day last Saturday, 198 yards, 3 touchdowns. Again, against Central Washington, but I think the Fighting Hawks have every reason to think they're going to walk in there and do something.
Kaminsky's been very good, their quarterback. Defensively is where I think UND is vulnerable. A guy like Gilman could potentially
open up,
hurt them in a game like that. But I think we'll have a good baseline for both teams out of this game.
So if the Grizzlies win that game against UND, knowing what UND's done so far, I'm going to settle down and be like, okay, I'm not thinking they're going to win the Big Sky or anything, but it's like it's like the Grizzlies might figure this out. If UND walks in and blows them out, we have to look at UND very differently. Yeah. We have to look at Montana very differently for expectations this season.
I know there's no tears for your friends in Bozeman, but what do you make of Montana State at 0-2 right now?
I think they're fine. I think that was one heck of a game.
Unbelievable game. Lost in double overtime to the Jacks on Saturday.
I think they were a couple quarterback plays away, smart decisions away from probably winning that game.
I think if you had to do over again, Viggs would do it up differently. What play calls he had, especially in double overtime of how that game ended.
But I think you could also, from SDSU's perspective, I think that game was very winnable.
Yeah, they weren't clean either.
Regulation for them as well. So it was, I think you saw two really, really good teams going at it, and I wouldn't be surprised if those are two semifinalists, going up against each other again in December.
Montana State now gets to the soft part of their schedule.
They're going to roll out. I think they've got clear sailing.
So they have San Diego this week, and then forget who they have. I think they have another patsy that they have after that. So they'll be okay. Then it's Big Sky play starts after that for them. It's Mercyhurst. I knew it was a early Division I school. I was going to think Stonehill, but it's San Diego and Mercyhurst are coming to Bozeman. Those are set your score kind of games after that.
Get right.
And then after that, they have Eastern Washington from there on. And then they go into, honestly, they have a chance to get healthy after that. It's San Diego, Mercyhurst, Eastern, at Northern Arizona.
Yeah.
That place is weird to play.
The Sky Dome's weird.
And then Idaho State, at Cal Poly, at Northern Colorado, home for Weber. They have nothing until the end of the year.
Right. And it's like, who knows what the Grizzlies are going to be at that point. They have to go to Washington Grizzlies, and the Grizzlies
they have Davis and Montana to end
winless from now until then, and you never know. Like that Brawl of the Wild game is like the weirdest things happen in that game.
The Portland State, by the way, Northern Colorado game is the season. I don't know if I'm trying to stomp on you there, but Portland State, Northern Colorado is the season finale.
Woo! Hey.
Neither team may have a win by then.
Write it down in your calendars, folks. That's a must see.
Well, Northern Colorado already won a game. They beat Shadron.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have a Division I win yet. So Portland State is horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible with a capital H.
Well, yeah, and that's also a good thing for, I think, like that Grizzlies North Dakota game is going to be a good measuring stick of, what's the quality like in the Big Sky? Because, down the road, we're going to see it.
I was going to say before we go, like the bottom of the Big Sky is worse than the bottom of the Valley, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You got some bad Big Sky teams here.
Murray State's probably not good in the conversation, but it's like, no, like they're a solid, 3-4 teams in the Big Sky that are down there.
And I don't know how good South Dakota is, honestly. If this game is tight with Northern Colorado on Saturday, that's not good.
That resets
Losing
expectations.
to Lamar is bad.
Yeah, that was kind of tough. I was chatting with some of our coworkers who are USD alum, and they were
that's bad, man.
In real time. They were really not happy with.
And
what
knowing
they were
full
saying.
well that they've got Northern Colorado and Drake before they come up here to play the Bison.
It's like you're not going to be prepared for
not
that game.
Great.
Yeah.
Not great right now. And this is something Mike and I were talking about yesterday, that how the portal has completely depleted teams at this level and the group of 6. There are a lot of bad FCS teams. There's a lot of bad group of 6 teams out there right now.
And it's tough because it's like South Dakota was a semifinalist last year, and by a wide margin. I think there was a sharp drop off.
Top 4
after that top 4, and they went from that to whatever we're seeing here. With
not great.
Still with Aiden Bauman and Charles Pierre, and so it's like that's tough to see. It's not a good sign of health for the.
That's why, right?
Sure.
That's why if UND can be better, that's better for everybody in this.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Going to be a dynamite game, 2:00 on Saturday. Great to see you, bud. Thanks for coming by as always. All right, Drew Trafton joins us each and every Wednesday at 9:20. We'll break. We come back. What a day yesterday out in West Fargo. We'll recap it. Ryan Kill from the Landon's Light Volleyball Invite coming up when we come back on Hot Mic right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Fog still pretty thick all over here in the Red River Valley. Supposed to burn off soon. Thankfully, we didn't have any fog yesterday out in West Fargo. We mentioned it off the top of the show, and if you watched any of our coverage on Extra from the lights, it was a dynamite day for the inaugural Landon's Light Volleyball Invitational. 8 teams in our area got to play from 1:30 to about 9 o'clock last night. Ryan Kill joins us, who was part of the organizers of this from the Landon's Light Foundation, whose daughter was on the Cheyenne team last night. You're out there now. We can see behind you there. Everything's being taken apart, huh? It's all over and done with.
Yeah. I was going to say we were out here again at 8 o'clock this morning to get the court put away and then get the subfloor and stuff out. Have an amazing crew of volunteers out with us again. A bunch of Cheyenne dads and some other people from the community to make this happen.
All right, so it's been, like you told me, almost 2 years in the planning. Describe yesterday. What was it like?
I think when you picture something in your head, you have an idea. Yesterday absolutely surpassed any image that we could ever have of what this would be. The board members and Travis and Andrea were sitting up on a little elevated area right before the Cheyenne game started, and just the lights shining down, the crowd. There was a row of young little girls that had lined the front of the court, and I walked up to them and I said, this is why we're doing this, is for them, because they're going to be the next one they're going to play on this. So I had some people come up and say, if you expected something, this must have met your expectations 200%, and I absolutely think so.
So when the day got going and we saw the video you guys on Monday putting it down, you're out there, just did you have a chance to sit down and say, wow, we did it? We made this work?
Yeah, I think there was a couple different moments throughout the day that happened. Obviously, in the center of the court was Landon's logo. When we started getting the court done, we hit about the halfway point, and I was able to put a couple of those last pieces down with his logo, and that definitely kind of made it real. And then yesterday, when we actually put up the two volleyball sides and the net, of going, okay, this just transformed into a volleyball court. And yeah, a little bit of nerves right away because the weather was absolutely beautiful, but there was some sun. So the first time a hard hit came on the team facing the sun, we're like, how is this going to be handled? And the players didn't even phase them. I mean, they played so great yesterday. They were more about the atmosphere and the event than any of the elements, which is what we were hoping for.
Well, we're showing some video of it now, Ryan. The idea to introduce the team and have them walk down the staircase, can you tell me about that? Because that was really cool. That was really neat.
Yeah, the volleyball team is like every other team. You know, it takes everybody to do that. So we wanted to make sure that we highlighted every single player, the non-starters and the starters. There was a picture in the forum this morning of a nice little young man that was actually sitting on the alleyway, and he was giving high fives to all the players that came down. And I mean, that was just absolutely incredible. The joy on his face to get high fives, the joy on the faces of the girls to come down. We originally thought about a ramp. A couple of us dads tried the ramp. Wasn't the best for us, so we said let's put the player safety in the right spot. So put the stairs on there, and just what a cool introduction and moment for all of them.
Are you telling me you couldn't stop? Is that what you're saying when you tried it?
The way up wasn't as bad. The way down, the momentum got us a little bit. Yeah.
And we saw as well in the video the amount of students that came out. Was that what you were hoping for? Just the student sections alone, it looked like were tremendous.
I mean, that's the whole thing of high school sports. I absolutely love when the students show up. They're the ones that create the atmosphere. The friendly rivalry, the chants that they had last night was absolutely, it was just electric, them going back and forth. It creates the event. And for all the hard work and stuff that these female athletes put in, it's really nice to see that the student body wants to be there, to slap them on the back and say, hey, good job. We appreciate what you're doing. We recognize the hard work. So shout out to all the students. Last night was obviously a highlight, but show up every single game the rest of the year for all of your sports teams. It matters a ton to the athletes.
Now, when you were in studio last week, I asked you if there was going to be a time where you could actually sit and enjoy it. Did you get that, or was it until the Cheyenne match last night?
We got out here yesterday morning, got everything done. I think I left to go home and change at about 11:30, and I was at a nice establishment at about 12:30, enjoying myself, ready for that first game. So, yeah, I was able to go into dad mode like I was hoping. My daughter and a lot of our players, they play with these other girls on these other teams. So that was probably the best part about yesterday is, yeah, there was definitely competition, but there was just so much support for every side. So if somebody made a good play against a team, you still saw fans on the other side clapping and cheering on the girls. It was awesome.
Tell me the feedback you got, Ryan, from the other teams. I know how excited Cheyenne was to be there, from the other teams that got a chance to be part of this.
Yeah, so Anna Helverson, she plays for Fargo North. She actually won the Landon's Light Award as well. Her mom came and talked to us and said when Anna walked in, she was kind of FaceTiming her going like, Mom, like, look at this. I think that was the best feedback that we got. A lot of people didn't know what they were going to be walking into. And I think that was the whole goal of Landon's Light. Everything that they've done, they do at a high level. We wanted people when they walked in here yesterday to have their jaws drop a little bit and be like, holy smokes, this isn't just a little court put down that they're going to bump the ball around on. Like, this is an actual event. And it wouldn't have happened without all of the volunteers, all the support. You know, you yourself, you help and use your platform to promote this and get people out here. Doesn't happen without the atmosphere.
Your daughter was one of the award winners as well. What did that mean to you guys?
I think every one of us has a parent. We're hoping that we raise good humans. I think my daughter is a very, very kind and loving person. Being Landon's senior classmate, that was. My wife said yesterday that since we've been together, she's seen me cry 5 times. Yesterday, when I was holding the flag and I locked eyes with my daughter, was number 6, and then number 7 is when she got that award. Wow. It just means everything because. The games and the competition was great. The whole reason for this is to promote Landon's Lights mission and what Landon stood for. So for her coaches and her teammates to think that she embodies a lot of that stuff and promotes what he stood for, and like she lives like Landon lived. That's what we say a lot. That was a highlight of my life. I'll never forget it.
That's pretty good stuff. I assume now the work for year 2 starts today or tomorrow. What's ahead now?
It's time to get the court put away and then start scheduling some meetings. We have had a lot of people reach out. I saw something online last night that was amazing. Kindred actually played, and they had put a post Tuesday nights under the lights, not like in West Fargo, and it was in their gym. So I think that was a little bit maybe of a call out of, hey, I think we'd be interested. So yeah, we're 100% talking about how to possibly expand this, like we talked about on your show.
Yeah.
I would love personally to turn this into a multi-day event, get some Class B teams in here. I come from a small town. I know small towns show up. So in order for that to happen, we're going to continue to need support of the community, which to this point has stood tall. Hopefully they don't get upset when we're asking because we're only asking for the kids and for the cause.
Did you notice people that were maybe had no intention to stop and, hey, check it out? Did you see that as the day went along yesterday?
Yeah, my mother-in-law was her birthday yesterday, so I wished her happy birthday yesterday, but happy birthday again, Jody. She went to Cashwise yesterday to grab a marker because we had to write some stuff down, and she was wearing her Cheyenne gear, and one of the cashiers said, there's a volleyball thing going on tonight, right? And so Jody kind of filled her in on everything, and they said, I think we're going to stop by. That sounds like a pretty cool event.
That's cool.
So there was a lot of people that I don't think had an affiliation to a team, but they just wanted to be part of the event. And that's what we're hoping for. I think we had one of the great sponsors last night, Hub International. Michelle Caloran sent a text message last night, and she said, I was trying to figure out a word for last night, and it was electric. It felt like electric, which makes sense for Landon's Light. And then another board member said that Landon's Light just continues to connect people. So for people like you just mentioned that don't have a tie to any of the schools but want to be part of the mission and the focus, they just keep bringing people together.
It was watching the last match, your team, when Cheyenne was playing South, and at night, it looked different. It looked electric to me. Like, this is cool. Like, you just don't, you don't want to do it all the time, but once a year, twice a year, that was what looked really different to me, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, the visual, they sent a picture last night that they took from an elevated spot of the lights shining down on the court with the hanging lights over the top of it. The pink jerseys rocking. I mean, I'm going to blow one of those up. It's going to be in my house. It's going to be in my office. I mean, just the imagery last night was absolutely incredible. And we all talked, I mean, yesterday's weather could not have been any better.
Correct.
And if people don't think that somebody up above had some assistance with that, you got to be kidding yourself.
Did you have a Wrigley Field situation? Did you have anybody on the balcony looking out, watching that didn't have tickets or anything like that?
Yeah, it was funny. We saw some of the people that are out the lights. They were sitting on their balconies, which, yeah, absolutely. You want to live at the lights because you get to experience some of that. But we were joking. We should shout out and say, throw $15-20 down, please.
So now, the court, all that, where does this all go, and describe the process of trying to do this again maybe next year?
Yeah, so we have everything crated up right now. This morning, obviously the weather is okay. It's not cooperating great. It's a little humid out here, so we put all the tiles and stuff in the crate. We're talking right now about possibly reaching out to see if anybody has a facility that we could use for a weekend to lay these tiles out so they can get completely dry. Yeah. We would hate to wreck the court because obviously we want this to be something that is down the road 15, 20 years down the road. So we're sending out the bat signal right now. If anybody would be kind enough to help with that, we would come unload the tiles, let them dry out, clean them off, and then put them back away for their nap. And then it's off to next year, or if somebody's interested, we have a court that we'd possibly use for another crate event.
That's pretty good stuff, bud. I know you got to get back. I don't want you to get in trouble for not helping out there, but I appreciate you coming on. Congratulations, man. It looked fantastic, at least to watch on television. Have to imagine it was, as you mentioned, electric there in person. Thanks for the time, bud. We'll talk down the road, okay?
Thank you for everything that you did, Dom. Greatly appreciate it.
Thanks, bud. There he goes. Ryan
Thank
Gill
you.
from the Landon's
Yep,
Light Volleyball Invite joining us out there at the court at the lights. And again, if you watched any of it, if you saw even the clip of highlights that we played, it was a neat deal. It was embraced by certainly the teams that were involved. The area around it certainly seemed like they got on board, and what a neat deal. And watching, I flipped it on late last night. I say late in quotation marks, for the last match because I wanted to see just how it looked at night. And you saw it there in that Cheyenne South video. It looked pretty darn cool. So congratulations to everybody out there for making it happen. And who knows, bigger and better may be happening. The court itself looked pretty darn cool. The whole 9 yards was just fantastic. All right, we're overdue for a break. We'll caught up here. We'll wrap up our first hour. Quinn Irey from Horace Baseball joining us in our second hour on his stud going to play in the Big Ten. Back on Hot Mic right after this. All right, welcome back, everybody. Wrapping up our first hour. Our thanks to Ryan Gill for joining us. Just looking at some of the photos Alyssa Gessler got out in Forum. You can check that out from yesterday. Really neat stuff out in West Fargo. Appreciate the time there, and we'll see. See if they can get a chance to do it more, which would be fantastic if they're able to go back and do this all over again, potentially next year. All right, there's a couple other things I wanted to hit on here before we break and get to our second hour. Right now, line is still at UND plus 3.5 for that game on Saturday in Missoula. So that's probably a good line there. We'll see. I don't know if it'll change much, but that's likely where we're going to be at. I also was just emailed. I got my hands on the contract for the Bison-Montana State football game in Vegas in 2027. And without spoiling too much of this, because I'll have a story on it for Inforum either later today or later in the week, let's just say the financials are worth it. If you're wondering that, in lieu of not getting an FBS game, this will certainly make up for that. So I have just skimming it so far, but it would appear that would make up for the lack of getting a FBS opponent. And that's going back to just putting a bow on things from Nashville and the destination deals. I think in lieu, they're not going to get those games anymore because we got that email on Monday. I was like, why can't the Bison schedule better opponents? It's not like for a lack of effort, something we've talked about on this show. We've been on the air for 6 years. Football scheduling has been a hot topic, I can tell you that, because it's one of my favorite passions to discuss. They're FCS teams. I know that you recognizable, not Stonehill or Mercyhurst or Long Island, even though they got an FBS win last weekend. New Haven, Lindenwood, not those schools. I'm talking recognizable schools that have just said flat out no. And it's a world where NDSU, and this is going to sound preposterous, but I'm going to say it anyway, NDSU is closer to the University of Minnesota, even though they're not in terms of finances and that. But in terms of football competitiveness, they're closer to the University of Minnesota than they are to Tennessee State, even though they're in the same division. There's nothing similar between North Dakota State and Tennessee State, outside of the fact they share the same 3-letter abbreviation next to their name. That's it. There's nothing similar there. How North Dakota State spends its money, their facility-wise, is closer to that of, in my opinion, of the highest of Group of 5 and some Power 4 schools than it is to any of those. Southeast Missouri State is a fine FCS school. If you look at their website, you go and look at their games, there's nothing similar to them to NDSU. Just isn't. For those that went to Bozeman, and Sam Herder was talking to me about this off air, now that they have their indoor facility, and those that have gone to Bozeman, there's nothing similar with Montana State than there is who they're playing this weekend. They're playing San Diego or Drake. It just, the only thing that is the similarity is the FCS moniker next to it. And that's what we're in and why the gap is just growing like this. And, we're begging for teams to get better and begging for teams to rise up and get into the mix. And I don't know how you do it outside of spending, getting the money to raise it and then spending it, because the gap is just, it's like the Grand Canyon now, and it's getting larger in terms of the very best. And then it used to be about 10. Now we're down to about 4 at the very, very top. I look at Eastern Washington is playing Northern Iowa this weekend, right? That's a great, if you would have told me that game, heck, even 10 years ago, sign me up, let's go. I'm in for that. I couldn't care at all about that game because neither program is very good right now. And why? They don't have the funds to spend to compete. Eastern Washington, heck, they've thought about shutting down athletics at the school. Northern Iowa has been hemorrhaging money. That tells you exactly. Those are 2 schools in 2010 to 2016, 17. Well, what was it? 18 was Eastern Washington's last dynamite team. That you could set your watch to it. They're going to have great players. They're going to be in the mix nationally, and they're going to win a playoff game or 2. Since then, Eastern, I think, has won 1 playoff game. Northern Iowa, I don't think has won any, maybe 1 in that span. Those are schools that we counted on that you can't anymore. You just can't, because they don't have the funds to do it. And that's what we're talking about when you're looking at, like, when the Bison scheduled Eastern Washington, when that game for U.S. Bank Stadium, that came about, 2021. Like, okay, that's a name opponent, and they haven't been good. They haven't. And I like Aaron Best a lot. He's a former alum. He played there. He bleeds that school, and they're just up against it. And those are schools that have some football tradition. Imagine if you don't. Like Portland State was a great D2 team. They haven't been relevant in Division I. I know I'm picking on them this year, but today's show, but they just don't have it. Northern Colorado, great Division II history. They've been terrible in Division I. You don't spend the money on it, you're going to be what you are, and that's where they're at. There's my Wednesday rant for the day. Let's break. We come back. We'll start our second hour. Kason Borkhardt is heading to Oregon. His coach, Quinn Irey, will join us. We got a kid from West Fargo, Horace, heading to the Big Ten for baseball. Does not happen. It's coming up. We come back.
This is Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody. Second hour ready to rock and roll. Remember, we're short today. Bison Media Zone coming up in about a half hour. We'll get you ready for that North Dakota State SEMO football game. Chat some other Valley matchups coming up in about a half hour's time. The phone started blowing up last night about 8:30. Once word got out, the bat signal went out on a guy that we had in our show about a month ago that you got to meet. And I'm glad we did, because the news came out of West Fargo last night that Kason Borkhardt announced his commitment to play baseball at the University of Oregon. Last time I checked, they're okay. Last time I checked, they play in the Big Ten in baseball, one of the top programs in the country for the young man who's just entering, I believe, his junior year of high school, that he's burst on the scene over the last couple of years. And we mentioned it, how unbelievable summer he had. We talked to him after he was getting ready to go to North Carolina to represent the Midwest for Team USA. His head coach is Quinn Irey. Makes me feel old because I covered Quinn both in hockey and baseball growing up, and he joins us now from Horace. First off, congratulations. Give me, what was your first interaction when you saw Kason? Do you remember that, and what stood out to you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, Dom. Going back, I was actually thinking about this last night, just kind of reflecting about Kason. My first interaction with him, being that he was on our first varsity team as an 8th grader, the very first time he stepped on the field for us, we're playing down in Harrisburg, South Dakota, in probably one of the coldest baseball games I've ever been a part of, between college, everything. And he stepped up on the mound as a scrawny little 8th grader. And Harrisburg at the time, I think they went on to win state that year. He went up, was making them look pretty uncomfortable in the batter's box for the 3 or 4 innings that he threw. again, he's out there, no sleeves on. It's probably got to be a real feel of 35 degrees. And he is striking them out, sawing them off with this fastball. And we kind of looked at each other in the dugout. Me and my assistant coach were like, oh, this is kind of interesting. We were, kind of throwing him out to the wolves a little bit. And just his composure right away for the very first outing he had, I was like, this kid's going to be something special if he feels this comfortable in this situation right now. And he's continued to prove that now through the last 3 years of playing for us here in Horace. And it's proud to be an understatement on Kason Borkhardt.
When you get that kind of impression, I mean, there's like the hair stand up on the back of your neck kind of thing. Like this kid's whatever 12 or 13 and he's dealing.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of does. It's kind of hard to describe when you watch a kid do that in that situation, just because of those are things that you weren't really able to coach at sometimes. Yeah. Just the level of confidence that he had and just his composure and everything. That was something that I just, again, it was really amazing to watch for us as coaches, but you said it right. Hair stand up on the back of your neck a little bit. Like, okay, this kid's got something special that's unattainable to some. So
his progression has been not even steady. Has it been like just a rocket like this straight up now over the last couple of years, what you've seen firsthand?
Yeah, I would definitely say, his 8th grade year, he really started to turn some heads a little bit when he gets up on the mound. It's like, okay, he's got a little bit of zip on his fastball, and then slowly on the mound, he has progressed with some of his off-speed options because people understand, okay, he's got a little bit of life on the fastball. Now we need to sit some off speed. Well, then he's going to improve his off speed to make himself more unhittable. But I think his biggest progression has been in the batter's box, just overall his swing. This isn't something I talked to Kason a whole lot about, college baseball. Like, are you going to pitch or are you going to hit? And I think, honestly, one of the things that attracted him to go to Oregon is that they want him to do both. Just because he does have the ability to, with his long levers and just his swing pattern that he can really develop as a hitter. But at the same time, you don't get too often a lefty throwing upper 80s that you can still develop, and he could probably get into the 90s very easily too. So
when he was on the show, last month, I tried to pin him down on that. Like, are you gonna do both? Were you gonna do one or the other? And he kind of hemmed and hawed on that because I got the sense he wanted to do both if a school would let him. And I guess you play college baseball. Is that common at this level?
No, I'd say it's definitely common at the high school level just because, you have your better athletes that they can throw hard and they have the ability to go and pitch, right? But once you get to that college realm, there aren't a ton of guys that really are true two-way players. And then even as you get into the professional realm, it's very, very uncommon to see a guy, obviously, Shohei Ohtani, that's just freak of nature that can do it from both sides, on the mound and at the plate. But there's not a ton of that. I think it's kind of going away a little bit at the college level, and it's kind of cool to see. That's one of the things Kason talked to me about when he was, before he made his commitment. We're talking about it. He's like, and they want me to two-way. It was like one of the first things he mentioned. So that's something really important to him. Is like he's still to pitch. And obviously swing the bat. So,
all right, give us from what you were in the know about Oregon, because again, I tried to ask him about schools. He didn't want to get too much into it. How early on were the Ducks invested or interested in him?
To tell you the truth, I think it happened basically throughout this summer was when they really started their pursuit. We had talked earlier before we came on about, I think he really started to jump off the page with how he played at that USA Invitational. And I think that's when the pursuit of Kason really started to amp up for a lot of college coaches across the country. But to tell you the truth, I didn't know about Oregon until he came into my office on Monday. He's like, "Hey, Irey, just so you know, I might be committing here soon." I'm like, "Oh, where are you thinking?" And it's kind of funny. Like, there wasn't a ton of coaches reaching out to me personally about it. And then all of a sudden he's like, "Well, I was out in Eugene last weekend and I think I'm going to go." I was like, "Oh, that's a decent program. Well, maybe you want to consider that a little bit, and we were kind of joking around about it. But yeah, that's really, really cool opportunity for him. And he just fell in love with the campus right away is some of the things he talked about and loves the coaching staff. So it sounds like it's a really good fit for him.
So we're watching highlights of him, Quinn, both hitting, which, I mean, it's an effortless swing, but him on the mound, the ball looks like it just explodes out of his hand. You've seen it. Is that accurate how to describe it?
Yeah, it's I the best way to describe it is that his fastball really gets on you quickly.
Yeah.
And just because of his, like I talked about, he has such long levers. When he really extends and gets some reach on his fastball, that in combination with his left-handers kind of typically have more arm side run on their fastball. It makes some guys really uncomfortable just with how quick it can get on you, and how much late life his fastball has is one of his biggest attributes. Guys throw a lighter ball, a heavier ball, more straight, two-seam, four-seam, whatever it is. He kind of has just that natural left-hander arm side run, that run away from right-handed hitter in on a lefty. So makes the at-bat very uncomfortable for a lot of guys. So that's, it's not a fun at-bat. And I've watched a lot of guys struggle against him because of that.
6'3", is that about right? And is he done growing? That's maybe the bigger question.
That's a good question. I mean, he is just entering his junior year of high school,
right.
So he could have some potential. I know I coached his older brother Cooper, both at Cheyenne High School and then with the West Fargo Legion program. And Cooper is about that same size too. So I think Kaysen might have some room to grow as well. Maybe not so much on the height, but definitely with his frame, he could put on a few more pounds too.
So then we're talking, maybe mid-90s then, right? If he adds more strength.
I would think that is in the tank for Kaysen Borkhardt for sure. Because, right, I mean, watching with the bullpens in March and April, I mean, he's mid to upper 80s, and it's very effortless. There are some guys that are very max effort to get to that.
Yep.
He is definitely not one of those guys because he is a starter, so he feels like he needs to have some longevity to get through the game. So he's not going to be a max effort every single pitch. So I definitely think 90s are well within reach for Kaysen Borkhardt.
I got to ask, with the attention here, and he was pretty even-keeled about it when we talked in August, how does he handle this and know full and well when next spring comes around that even more eyeballs, maybe more scouts are even going to come to Horace games to watch him pitch?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think Kaysen will approach this like he approaches everything, just with the most calm and confident demeanor that you possibly could imagine. People ask about him, and I always tell them that I have never seen Kaysen Borkhardt really get rattled about anything, whether it's maybe not his most ideal performance at the plate or on the mound. He's just going to keep putting his head down and keep going to work. So, the attention he's getting right now by committing to Oregon, the continued attention he's going to get by potential, MLB scouts or, you're talking about the draft. I don't think that's really going to affect him too much. He's going to go out and play his game. As you talked about with him in this summer, he's a kid that absolutely loves playing the game.
Yes.
If he could play 365 days out of the year, he would, so he is a kid that absolutely just loves to play and loves to compete. So I don't think that, some of this added attention and continued added attention he might receive is going to really affect him too much.
Quinn, you played baseball pretty competitively here in the area. I'm interested for your perspective on this because I've talked plenty on football guys going. We got guys going potentially SEC in the Big Ten out of North Dakota. Basketball, we've certainly seen that. Baseball, we got guys pitching in the SEC. Why now? Why the surge in local baseball talent where it's getting the attention of the power conferences?
I would say I think that the upper Midwest has definitely been an untouched area when it comes to baseball recruiting. A lot of that is obviously due to, our inability to play the amount of games that some kids are able to do down in the South and on the West Coast, whatever it may be. But I think now with the help of, both the transfer portal and online resources there are for putting athletes, like putting their profile out there has changed the game so much that now people are starting to realize, okay, there are some very, very talented baseball players that maybe it's a very, very good programs that are developing some kids right now that has vastly been untouched for a while. I think that has helped a ton to gain some exposure. Obviously, it doesn't hurt having a guy like Matt Strom still pitching the big leagues right here from West Fargo, or a guy like Andy Young that had some big league time. So I mean, that's definitely helped put especially the state of North Dakota on the map for baseball development. So I think that there's going to continue to be more and more kids that are getting more exposure because of some of those online resources and platforms.
When you found the news out, were you like the rest of us, or did he give you a heads up yesterday or earlier than that?
He gave me a heads up on Monday. Just like, he felt really good because he just got back from Eugene on Sunday. Gave me a heads up. I teach at the school, so he stopped into the gym real quick and was like, hey, I was out in Eugene, whatever. And so then me and my assistant coaches were texting last night, and I hadn't told them. I kind of wanted it to be a surprise for them to see. And they're just as much involved in Cason's development as I am. Just with working out with him every single day at practice and in the off season. So. We were all pretty excited for him, just because he's an amazing young man.
And for the fact of I've lamented this, that the Big Ten goes coast to coast. They play out here. They play Nebraska. They're going to play Minnesota. He's going to have opportunities for people like yourself, family, to be close by to watch him pitch.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind going out to Eugene just to go get in a game out there, just to see the campus and see the beautiful facility they have, but. That's something we were talking about too. Like, go for a weekend series, go watch them play against the Gophers, and go play down at Haymarket Park in Nebraska, Lincoln. Yep. That's going to be really cool too. So, just hope for the best for him to stay healthy and that he can, have a good transition to that college level.
All right, now I'm going to make you feel old. Do your players know that you played? You were pretty darn good. You played professionally. Do they know that at all, or no?
It's not something I bring up too often. It's maybe
Come on, man.
Once in a while at the end of practice, we'll some coaches got to get their swings in too, and might need to run a few out of the ballpark here and there to remind them. But no, it's there's a lot of things that I take away from when I played, both in college and at the pro level, and trying to apply to my guys. We talk about just doing things the right way, playing the game, being first class, all those things. That I stole from Coach Hager, from Coast, Michael Schlacht with the Red Hawks. So no, it's not something I talk about a whole lot. So
you playing at Jamestown, you have to have played some. You mentioned how cold it was for that one game with Cason. Is there one that stands out? Like, I can't believe we're playing today, kind of weather game?
Yeah, both because it was unbelievably cold and rainy down in Omaha. It must have been my senior year. We played a triple header against Bellevue. The Bellevue Brewers.
Triple header?
We played three 7-inning games because we had to get these games in for conference.
Okay.
And, that was one that stands out to me just because of how brutally cold it was. They were a top 5 team in the country at the time. Oh. I think we were within the top 25 as well. But it was just a knockdown, drag out. And I didn't catch all 3 that day. I caught one, took one off, and caught the second. But that's one that stands out where it's just, you didn't feel your hands for quite a while after that one.
You took a game off. What are you doing? Last thing for you, I wanted to have you on about this as well. With your alma mater now moving to Division II, for baseball specifically, because I've had people mention, we've talked plenty on football and basketball. How do you think UJ fits in? And the NSIC is loaded in baseball. How's this going to go, in your opinion?
They are, for sure. And it's going to be an interesting transition for them. If anyone's going to be able to get them prepared for that transition, it's going to be Coach Hager, just knowing what his expectations are of his players and knowing what the practices look like in preparation. I think I'm really excited to see what it's like for them because it is going to be, a lot less travel as far as the conference play is concerned, playing a lot more Minnesota teams. But I'm excited to see what they're able to do. I think that they'll be able to compete right away. Just based off of in the past, playing against some of those NSIC schools and non-conference stuff. I'm excited to see, where they can end up, but it's not going to be easy. They're going to be playing against the Augustanas, the Mankato, St. Clouds of the world, and it's a whole nother beast when it comes to college baseball. So it's going to be tough, but it's going to be good for the program overall.
When the NSIC has produced national champions in baseball, you know full well what you're getting yourself into in that league. There's no doubt. It's great to catch up, bud. Thanks so much for the time. Congratulations. It's going to be awesome to watch him pitch and play coming up this spring. Thanks for the time. Be well. We'll talk soon, okay?
All right, appreciate it, Dom. Thanks for having me on.
Quinn Irey joining us, West Fargo Horace head baseball coach, on the news of Cason Borkart late last night announcing his commitment to play at Oregon. Eric, if we could throw that video up again of him, and if you missed our interview with him, go back and watch. It was really good, and he illustrated he plays for the Minnesota Blizzard as well. That's his travel team that he played on top of his time with Horace. But everything to me, and this is what, to Quinn's point, is effortless with him on a baseball field, how special that is to have that kind of athletic talent where it doesn't look like you're trying hard. But if he's throwing mid-80s as a left-hander, and he's got a left-handed swing to go with it. That's like, at least from my baseball knowledge and the people I've talked to, that's the magic combo. That's it. I mean, you can see he's facing a batter here. Again, it just, as Quinn said, it's on you quickly. And that part, from the left-handed side to the mid to high 80s, and again, you can put some weight on him, and that's going to come. Like, holy cow, that could be pretty scary in the not-too-distant future. So, congrats to him. And again, for baseball nuts around here, again, a reminder, Oregon plays Nebraska. They play Minnesota. They're going to play schools from around here semi-annually, at least how the Big Ten scheduling will go, that he'll get a chance to come back to the upper Midwest and play. Big-time stuff there for a kid. And Oregon is traditionally powerhouse that is either hosting a regional, hosting a super regional. They did that a couple years ago. That was the year Oral Roberts beat them on their way to the College World Series, which I think that year the Ducks had it circled. They were going to Omaha, and ORU knocked them off. They're in the mix. It's not just some run-of-the-mill school that he's going to go play at. Congrats to him. All right, we're overdue for a break. We'll take one now. We get caught up on a couple things, and we'll wrap things up. We got to get out of here. Bison Media Zone coming up here in about 15 minutes. Back on Hot Mic right after this. All right, wrapping things up here on this Wednesday. Tomorrow, SEMO head coach Tom Matukowicz will join us. We had some scheduling issues. We'll hopefully do it today, but he'll join us tomorrow on the show to get ready for the Red Hawks trip to Fargo. Much more on that coming up in about 10 minutes on the Bison Media Zone. One last thing, and I'm totally organic here to wrap up on football scheduling, because I just got a tweet from our friends at FB Schedules, which is a great resource if you're a nerd like I am to go down the rabbit hole of who's playing whom. James Madison and Liberty just announced a series against one another, which will be fun for those schools involved. The Battle of the Blue Ridge, it's called. And they went to the extreme on scheduling out. If you don't think scheduling is done a ways in advance, I present these two schools who have scheduled games now for not just next year, but for 2031, 32, 33, 34, 2037, 2030, 2040, 15 years from now. So I'm not a great math mind, but kids that are 3 years old, 15 years from now, they can dream about playing Liberty and James Madison. That is advanced scheduling. I'm going to tell you that right now. 2040. FB Schedules tells me that is the furthest out scheduled game that we know of. That's crazy. I remember when the Gophers announced their series with Alabama, which is now not that far away. I was thinking, oh my goodness, that's like 10 years from now. And now that's creeping up on us. Heck, the Bison just are celebrating. They got games for 2028 and 2029, which is 4 years from now. This is 15 years into the future. This is like Marty McFly we're talking kind of stuff. It just seems foreign to me. But that's how this operates in college football. I really wish that there was some sort of college football aggregator, schedule maker that, you know, how the NFL does it. All we know in the NFL is who you're going to play next year based on where you finish and the rotation of the NFC and AFC, right? We don't know who's playing in 2040. But college football, we got games scheduled now 10 years out, which I thought was egregious. This is 15 years. So when you're trying to map out, I guess, hey, for fans of Liberty and James Madison, circle the calendar for September 15th, 2040. Nobody get married that day because we're going to a football game. That's some long-range planning. That, to me, that seems a bit crazy, but that's what you got going on. So I wanted to make sure we got that on the show before we wrap. Let's do some What to Watch before we get out of here. What to Watch brought to us by our friends at Northwestern Mutual. Appreciate their sponsorship of our show each and every day. Twins and Angels with a matinee today, wrapping up their series. Twins lost 12-2 last night out in Anaheim. That's a 3 p.m. first pitch there for the Twins come back home. We got 2 great volleyball matches tonight. These are 4 of the top 5 teams of the country. Pitt and Kentucky at 5:30 on ESPN, followed by Texas and Louisville at 8 o'clock. Some good volleyball for you tonight. That'll wrap things up. Our thanks to Drew Trafton, to Ryan Kill, and Quinn Irey for joining us. If you missed any of the show, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. You can watch a full replay on WDAY+. The Bison Media Zone is coming up. We'll see everybody back here tomorrow.